So in this video, we are going to be talking about manifesting your reality, how you manifest things into your reality, particular events or say experiences, money, cars, homes, whatever it is that you want, how it is that you create the environment that makes this happen for you. Now, I think about some of the things that I have experienced in my life and how it is that I found myself on stage speaking to the same audience and on the same stage as Ron Paul, G. Edward Griffin. These are people who I have always looked up to and wanted to meet and share my thoughts and ideas with. And here it is, I find myself doing just that. Now, 10, 15 years ago, when I had. Okay, we're back. Okay, I just always just had it in my head that, hey, I'm going to find myself someday speaking to an audience. I am going to meet some of the people that I think are my idols in life, but never really thought, how am I going to get there? Then it happened. And I thought, man, this is amazing. I've always dreamed of this. And when I look back on what it is that had happened in my life that got me to the places that I have experienced, going to the Rebel Capitalist and having this great experience on YouTube, I really think to myself, man, it comes down to your thoughts. It comes down to your thoughts, and that is it. There's really nothing else to it. And then it's not just your thoughts, but also the feelings you have about your thoughts. Those two combinations is all it takes in order to create the reality you're looking for. Now, what's funny about it is that most people's thoughts are negative with a bad feeling. It doesn't matter if it's a negative or bad feeling, your thoughts will be manifested. And this is where I think a lot of people who are living in depression, living in poverty, living in a life that they feel is not appropriate to them, they dwell on the idea. They think about it constantly, and therefore it's constantly presented to them. See, I know because this is how I experience like myself. A lot of people who know me personally know that when I was 40 years old, when I had just turned 40, I was very much in debt. I had just my basic day job. I had no real running vehicle. I mean, that was breaking down. I was drinking a lot, right? And nothing going for me. Like it was a bad, bad position to be in life. And I had, one kid and one on the way. And this is what I was experiencing in life. And I think to myself, man, what were you thinking about back then? Right? What were you thinking about that led you up to that point in life? How was it that you were feeling about life? What was it that you were thinking about? And I was thinking about New World Order. I was thinking about total world chaos. I was thinking about economic failure. I was thinking like all the horribleness that would come from conspiracy theory minded people. Like I was thinking about all that stuff and I was really good at it. I could have a really good long conversation about all that stuff. And then I gave it a really bad negative feeling. I had this negative feeling in my gut, like constantly thinking about it. It was down in my gut. Right. So it was that combination of like conspiratorial minded thoughts of world domination and destruction and economic failure and chaos and all this other stuff. And then when I was constantly thinking about it, I had this weird feeling in my gut. And then my life was completely deteriorated around me. Totally created the reality that I was seeing. Straight up. Like I was a decent dude. Like don't get me wrong. Like I was friendly enough and I went showed up to work every day and I did my part. Like I wasn't like stealing or doing any kind of stupid things like that. I was just a normal dude. But my thoughts was totally deteriorating my life. So I changed that. I changed the way I was thinking about things. Said, okay, I'm going to turn that stuff off. I'm not going to look at it anymore. In fact, I'm not going to look at anything. I'm just not going to look at news or things. I got rid of my cell phone. Like I didn't have any computer or anything like that. I turned it all off, right? And then when I did come back to getting a cell phone and looking and researching and stuff like that, when I came back to it, I said to myself, follow the money. Just follow the money. and think about how it is that you can use the information to better yourself. Feel good about it, right? Now, that's what I just told myself. I didn't say anything else like, do this research, follow these particular people, give it the, whatever. It was none of that stuff. It was follow the money, right? And give it a feeling or a thought of using this information to better myself. And when I did that, everything started to change for me. I had also quit drinking, by the way. So, like, quitting drinking was the first thing so I could start thinking clearly, because most people don't realize that when you're drinking every day, even if you're not drunk, you're in an alcohol-based consciousness. And I know this because that's the way I lived for a very long time. So I had to give up alcohol because I was living that alcohol-based consciousness, which was a low vibration feeling, and I was giving it a very negative, meaning to everything that was going on in my life. So I had to get rid of it, right? I got it out of my life, and I started thinking about things in a, excuse me, I started thinking about things in a way that said, hey, how am I going to use this information to better myself? How is it that other people could then use this information in relation to what it is that I am experiencing, not only here at the lumberyard, but in life in general, and then putting that on YouTube and just sharing that experience, just saying, hey, this is going to be helpful not only for me personally to do this so that I could learn and become more educated inside of understanding economics and how it is that it's playing an impact in my life personally, and how I share that is going to end up growing over time. Right? So that's it. That's all like my thoughts were. I wasn't thinking about like what it was that I was going to make for money. I wasn't thinking about how it is that I was going to make, networking connections or anything else like that. I was just thinking putting out good videos that I would want to watch. Gave it a idea of having like a personal journal or something like that. So the more I did that, the more I realized that I was getting encouragement from the people in a way that says, hey, man, you're being helpful. You're being useful. And I thought, man, that is such an awesome feeling, just all on its own. And it wasn't like all the information that I was gathering, which was really heavy, had this feeling in my gut that hurt, right? Because that's the way I felt about New World Order kind of conspiracy stuff. When I would study that information, it would be in my gut and I would feel it there. Right? Instead, I'm looking at this information and I can feel it like vibrating more in my chest and up into like, my head, I could feel it on the top of my head. Like this is where the energy was coming from. And I thought to myself, man, this is a good vibration, man. This is good vibrations, right? Just like the song. And I'm thinking, yeah, man, this is the way I want to be. This is the feelings that I want to have. When I'm looking at information, when I'm researching it, this is the feelings that I want, because this is what's going to become attractive to the things that I want in my life. I know it is. I didn't know it. I didn't say it to myself. I just knew it intuitively that this is the right direction, right? So you know when you're doing good and you know when you're doing bad. You know. You just know it. You know when you're being a lazy shit and you're not doing it right, and you know when you're up and you're busting your ass and you're getting it done. I mean, you just know it. And I knew that this was feeling good and it was feeling right, and people were encouraging me, and it was just like, yep, this is the path that I want to be on. This is what I'm going to go on with. And this is before there was money or anything else going on. Like I didn't have anything happening like that yet. So later, as the channel was growing and I was studying more of this information and delivering it and making the connections out there on YouTube, I started realizing, man, this is going to change my life in a very profound way. I know it is. Right? I am so glad that I am giving it this idea of feeling in this meaning of elevation, that this stuff is not going to damage us. This stuff can be used to elevate our life. We can use it to then better make decisions for ourselves. We can use this stuff in a way that isn't negative, it's positive. Even if it's heavy and it's bad, we can say, hey, man, this is heavy and it's bad, but we don't have to give it that meaning. We can give it a meaning that says we can use this information to better ourselves, position ourselves. And so as I started doing that and started looking at this information and realizing that it can be done that way, I started realizing, man, the world of opportunity started opening up for me. And all of a sudden, I'm meeting people like George Gammon, getting invited to Rebel Capitalist, getting to speak on stage to the same people as Ron Paul, getting to meet people like Geo Griffin at the Silver Symposium, just recently coming back from Mike Zuber's One Rental at a Time conference. Holy moly. Talk about a change in life, going from absolutely nothing, broke, had no idea what it was that I was going to do, broken down car, in debt. It was like all the stuff that you would ever hear that people are talking about, like as far as being like, the worst part of their time in their life. Like I've heard people who are way worse off than I was, don't get me wrong, but I don't compare myself to other people. I'm just thinking about where I was at. Personally, I was not doing well, and I didn't know what I was going to do. And it literally was just the changing of my thoughts. So now I look back and I thought, man, who was in control of my thoughts that led me down that path of destruction? Right? That deterioration within my life. Like, what was it I was listening to? Who was it that I was paying attention to at the time that created my mentality of horribleness that then came and manifested itself into my reality? What was I doing? Like, at the time I thought I was protecting myself. I thought, man, if I don't listen to this stuff, I'm going to be in trouble, right? Like I'm going to get caught off guard. There's going to be something that happens where because I wasn't paying attention, I had my head buried in the sand or something like that. Like that's what I was telling myself. And that's why I was justifying, keep researching that information or listening to the people who I thought were doing research or real research and doing useful, helpful things for the people by delivering that information. And me personally, I felt the fear and anxiety every time I would watch that stuff and then look around and think, man, all the sheeple around me aren't getting it. They're all going to suffer. They're all going to be in pain and misery and all this other stuff. And then I looked at my own life and I'm like, whoa, that's me. I wished upon them essentially, right? Because it wasn't like I was wishing it upon them, but I thought, man, if they're not paying attention to the information, if they're not paying attention to the stuff that I'm listening to, that's going to deteriorate their life and make them worse and right, then they don't get to experience the deteriorated life like I'm experiencing. You see what happened there? It's like, how did I fall into this? I thought I was doing the right thing by following this information, but then I realized later on in life as it deteriorated me and put me close to the gutter that it was my own mindset, my own thoughts that were being delivered to me. Here, you like that sort of environment? You want to think about it? You want to give it a negative feeling? Then boom, there you go. It's right there for you. It's simple as that. All you have to do is give it thought and give it a good feeling, and that's it. There is really nothing else to it other than just letting everything else manifest itself, right? It just happens. I didn't think about how it is that I was going to meet G. Edward Griffin. He's the author of The Creature from Jekyll Island. This book changed my life. I read that book and everything about what it was that I saw about the Federal Reserve changed. Not only was it one of the first books that put me onto the conspiratorial mindset that actually deteriorated my life, it was also the one that has now given me the information that I can deliver today on this YouTube channel. That book was absolutely instrumental in everything in my life. I got to meet the author himself. All right, talk about what an experience, man. Like I didn't do it on purpose. I didn't try. I didn't even the guy who invited me to the Silver Symposium. He contacted me 3 times before I was finally like, okay, bro, what do you want? And he was like, I want you to come speak at this thing. And I'm like, okay, yeah, it sounds good, man. What are the deals, right? And so I almost shrugged the guy off. I didn't even think about it. It was just I'm like, I don't know, man. You seem kind of hyper. I don't know. This is if this is my kind of thing. But, it ended up being one of the coolest experiences I ever had. Right? So I think about that when it comes to who it is that's going to control your thoughts. Now, I look at the news out there and I think, man, these people are definitely doing some mind control here. This is controlling the narrative, controlling the thoughts, and then giving it this particular feeling that's behind it. And this is why I so try to push the idea of giving it the appropriate meaning, the meaning that you need to give it. Like people say, oh, dude, you're just something, and they just splat out the name calling, whatever, accusatory something or other. And I'm like, that's the meaning that you are giving it. I didn't give it that meaning. I'm just here delivering information. This is my opinion. You take the information, give it whatever meaning you want. Usually there's a link down in the description so that you can go and, judge the merits, give it, judge it for yourself. Like, I mean, it's just like, I'm not trying to be somebody who is making you have a particular thought, but trying to share my opinion and my thoughts on what it is that I am seeing happening out there. And I try to share the information so that you can give it your own meaning, your own thoughts to incorporate into your life, because how it is that you are going to look at this information is going to be so different. Okay? Now, here's the problem, is that mainstream media and the narrative is a mind control. They're trying to deliver you a particular thought and then give it a particular feeling. And by giving it that thought and that feeling, you will be delivered an outcome, almost guaranteed. It's just like, for me, I had that negative feeling and thought with the conspiratorial mindset, which delivered me a negative result. Like, if I had, here's the thing, like, there's some people out there who look at the conspiratorial mindset and don't give it a negative thought. Like, they might deliver it with an aggressive message or something of that nature, which is entertaining and fearful and whatever, but it's also like attention grabbing. But ultimately, they're looking at it in a positive light, because they're going to use that information to make money with, right? And so when they see that information, they don't feel it in their gut. They look at that information and they feel it elevated as a good thing, because even though they know it's a deterioration and a bad thing on the overall scheme of things, they're looking at it as how they can use this information to deliver to you, to fear the hell out of you in order to acquire the views that they need to make money with. And so therefore it's a positive for them, right? They don't deliver it that way, but deep down inside, subconsciously, that's what's happening. So again, it's all about the meaning that you are giving it. I took that information that they were giving meaning to and elevating themselves with it. I took that meaning and caused depressionary effects. Right? Same information. This is how I gave the meaning, how they gave the meaning. All right. So now, when we look at it today and we look at how the information is being delivered by the mainstream media, again, I don't look at that information and say, hey, this is real. Because I know a lot of the stuff that I have been studying and researching, and then go to the mainstream media to find news articles to validate the information, I cannot find it. They are delivering it in an inconsistent, improper way, and then usually it's done in an opinion form that has some sort of meaning behind it that then is most likely going to be deteriorating to most people if they happen to be on one side or the other, right? I mean, I guess it depends on, again, like who it is you are, and like in your original thoughts on the whole thing. So if you give all the information that you are getting as having some sort of impact on your life that says, hey, this is gonna affect me in a profound way, it's gonna be deteriorating, it's horrible news, this is bad, this is deteriorating, it's what it's gonna end up doing for you. It's gonna be making it very difficult. Your bills are gonna pile up. You're gonna have a hard time making money. You're gonna find more layoffs, more, cut hours, whatever. All those things will start to take place. I know, because I've seen it myself. I've done it myself. I've experienced this myself, right? And then once you switch that mindset around and you're thinking to yourself, okay, like, just take for example, I know I'm kind of just babbling off here, but just take for example, I know that this one's like a big one for a lot of people. Say you have bills or debts or something like that going on. Most of the time, if you have like bills and debts, it becomes the object of your thoughts, right? And then because you have it, you're thinking, okay, how the hell do I get rid of this thing? And by thinking that inside of itself, it was just like, okay, I'm going to concentrate on this debt, and I'm going to think about how it is I'm going to get rid of this thing, right? Because this thing is deteriorating to my life. Guess what? This is going to end up happening more in your life, because this is what you're thinking about. You're thinking about the debt, and you're giving it a negative thought to it, and so therefore it's going to end up becoming more of a negative and a building thing. It's not a matter of focusing in on the debt. Right? You know you have the debt. You're aware of it, right? You don't ignore it and saying like, I don't know, right? You don't do that. You acknowledge that there is debt there, but you don't focus in on it. You just know that it's happening. Then you focus in on the things in which it is that you want in your life. I would like to be in a position in which that I don't have bills coming into the mail, but I have checks coming into the mail. And I'm going to think about checks coming into the mail, and I'm going to feel good about those checks coming into the mail. In the meantime, I'm going to have to go to work, right? Because those bills over there are not going to just sit there and go away. So I'm going to have to show up to work and then figure out what it is that I'm going to do in order to, make that day happen in the best way I possibly can. And as you start progressing through life in this fashion and you're thinking about what it is that I am going to have in life in a bigger fashion of like more money, more checks coming in, less bills, more business, all these other things, and you're just kind of setting the other stuff off to the side, saying that I'm not ignoring it, right? But I have other thoughts. By thinking those things, they eventually start to produce themselves inside of your life, right? For example, for me, right? And I know this sounds kind of hokey because people are like, oh God, man, people always talk about just envision having $1 million and then one day $1 million will feel like you already have the $1 million or something like that. And then it'll like, no, that's true. Like if you feel it and you think of it in no other way than this is how it's happening, this is what's going to take place, then I guarantee you the universe will line right up for it. It takes time, like as for example for me, for speaking on stage with G. Edward Griffin, it took a long time for me to go through the steps in which I needed to go through in order to be able to get invited to go speak on stage with G. Edward Griffin. Like, I mean, I think about all the way going back to the very first video that I put out, that step right there in itself was leading me down the path to eventually be able to meet the guy and speak on the same stage. Okay? So it wasn't like I planned that. I had it in my head, right? And so if it was ever going to take place, there was certain things that needed to happen in my life that I needed to go through in order to have the ability to do that. And that was the experience that I had to go through. The universe lined it up for me to have that experience. I think about even the money in itself. Like I don't make, like I do all right on YouTube. Like it's good, right? And I don't complain about it at all. And it's like, I'm totally happy with it. Some months are better than others, that's for sure. But it's like the money on YouTube is neither here nor there for me. Now, don't get me wrong. If it was gone, it would break my heart. Right? And I would have to figure out something else to do. But like as far as like needing to make money on YouTube or something of that nature, I really try to put that on the back burner. That's not the important part for me. The important part is putting out good videos, right? Putting out videos that are consistent, ones that I would want to watch. That to me is the important part of what it is that I'm doing here on YouTube. Everything else will line itself up, right? And so I think about it even like going back to the days of when I was broke and had nothing going on, trying to figure out how I was going to pay my debts off and stuff. And I started this YouTube channel. You know how much work you have to go through before you actually are able to get paid on YouTube? It's a lot. I mean, at the time, I think I had to, let's see if it's, I don't know if it's still the same, but at the time, I think I had to have 1,500 subscribers and 240,000 minutes of view time. And I thought, man, 1,500 subscribers before you can like become a YouTube ad partner or a YouTube partner so you can put ads on. And so, you have to kind of work it like as if you are getting paid. And to me, it was just like I was all about wanting to learn anyway. So it was pretty easy for me to just consistently put out videos. And as the channel grew and it grew to the 1,500 subscribers and I was able to monetize the channel, videos would make like, I don't know, 85 cents. Yeah, this is like I put out a video, make like 85 cents. And I remember like one time it was like at the end of the month and I had made like $50 or something like that. And I was just like, all right, man, this is getting close. Like if I do this for another month, I'm going to get paid because you have to have $100 minimum in order for YouTube AdSense to send you some money, right? So that's like the minimum to the threshold to meet. That was my goal. That was it, right? Like, I mean, making pennies on these YouTube videos and having to put them out consistently in order to get there and being in that just general focus of just doing it and not really thinking about the money because it really wasn't that great anyway. I didn't find any importance in pursuing the money portion of it. Right? And when it did finally get that $100, I was like, oh yeah, cool. I want to do that again. I want to do that one again. I want to get another $100 from Google. Let's see if I can get another. Right? And then, like, I remember one time I made like $10 on a video, and I was like, whoa, yeah, $10. I mean, this is starting to become something. Like, this is really like, this is cool, you know? And I was like, man, $300 a month. Talk about life changing, right? Because I was broke and had no way of making money. Except for now, I had figured out a way to make money. I didn't really think about making money doing this. I didn't even think I was going to be able to do it. I didn't even think anybody was going to watch. It was like, it was just for me, for fun. Hey, you know, and I mean, I did enjoy the comments and the likes and stuff like that, and it was very encouraging, and that's what kept me going. It was certainly like there was a lot of before the channel was monetized, there was people who were PayPal donating as well, and that was very, very like encouraging. You know, people who were willing to send me $100, you know, after I was putting these videos out. It was just like, wow, that is cool. Right. So this thing is monetizing itself. It's like, you know, it's just growing. Like, I wasn't even thinking about how the money was coming. It was just showing up now. People were mailing it to me too. That was another thing. I was getting it in the mail. People were sending me money in silver and stuff like that. And it was, again, all before the channel was really monetized and making money on ad revenue. And I knew then, I was like, man, I got a product here. Right. And I was like, I don't know what to do. And everybody on the channel was just like, just keep doing what you're doing, man. Don't change anything. Don't change anything about what you're doing. Just keep going with that. All right. So I'm like, all right. So I just kept doing it. Kept making the videos in the car. Didn't really change anything about what I was doing, except that I went from pre-recorded short videos to live streaming every video just about. Other than that, like, all the videos are still essentially the same. Me in my car delivering information about what it is that I see happening from a working class point of view. Like, not much has changed. Yeah. So here it is, years later, and now I got YouTube that has grown to such a level now that it's like it's life changing for me. It's like made all the difference in the world, right? I mean, I was like able to make enough money in ad revenue as the channel was blowing up from, you know, the lumber taking off and, you know, all the stuff that happened there. Those who followed me on my channel saw it really just exploding. And so I got all this ad revenue in, paid off all my debts, paid off, like, you know, a bunch of family members' debts, and just like, you know, it was just like, man, let's, everybody's debt free. Let's get out of debt, everybody. Then I had this money to buy a house, and like all this stuff was just like taking place, and I didn't even really know, like, how is this happening? Like, I remember, like, even at the time, it felt like something else had grabbed me and was now shoving me forward. It was like, there you go, man. Right? It was like I didn't even have any control over what was going on. And I just remember, it was just like, man, why is it all to the way that I had thought? But it was so scary. Like, I didn't, was it scary? No, it was unfamiliar. That's what it was. It wasn't scary. It was unfamiliar, and that to me was weird, and I didn't like it, right? Like, to me, being broke, being, you know, concerned about bills, being all that other stuff, that was me. That was the real dude. That's the working class dude that everybody loves and knows, and all this other stuff is that guy, right? Because that's the person that I used to be, and now all of a sudden I feel like I'm a different person because I had changed. Like, I quit drinking, I quit thinking about the bullshit, and I started thinking in a better way. And I'm not doing the things that I was doing before, and I'm changing everything about what it was that was going on. I am becoming a different person, right? Like, I'm still the same dude,